both here and online, to give us an update on the Antelope Valley Groundwater Monitoring Program. We've had a long-standing relationship with USGS, and other folks in the valley have as well, including the Water Master. So I will turn it over to John Newby, who is the Field Office Chief. And then also we have Megan Dick, who is on the line. She is a hydrologist with USGS. And if you have any further questions, she can also help. Hey, John. Oh, there you go.
And John, I can advance your slides for you.
You said that.
I said that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. So basically, yeah, information only. I'll just give you an overview of the agreement you have with the groundwater water quality program with us. Mainly focusing on this year, water year 2025. Okay, so with the program agreement, I have a copy here if you need it. We're going to do a technical overview because mainly that's what I do. I'm the field office chief. I worked operations, the kind of the where, the when, the what kind of stuff. So there's two parts to the agreement. There's a groundwater levels part and a water quality section of it, and we'll get right into that. Okay, so here we have basically the region we're working in here, Antelope Valley. This map, this slide was provided by Tom, but yeah, it does kind of go over the region that we work in. Okay, so groundwater levels. So we always do the annual water level soundings. We do those in March. If we do the semi-annual water levels, we do those in August. We get 2 a year. We pick March and August, mainly more of a timing thing for our crew and staff that allows us to have time to do these. Takes about a week or two to get them all done. Let's see. Okay, so in the agreement this year, we got 147 wells total, which 19 are the semi-annuals. We use our calibrated electric tapes to make sure we're getting good soundings. And occasionally we'll use a calibrated steel tape, some tricky wells and stuff like that. Well, let's see if we got the picture on here. All right. Okay, so here is a map that was generated by a studies person many years ago, but it really comes in handy. We keep it all the time. Basically shows you all the wells we have in the system. With this particular link, you can go there and you can click on any well you like, and it'll take you right to the info. But yeah, this is a pretty good extensive map. We're still using this one every day. Been using it for about 10 years. All right, so here is some example of some water level data that you would get if you went online to go look for your data. This particular one, it shows you where the water kind of lies at as far as below the land surface. And as you can see, this one came up over the years, but part of what we're doing, and with our long-term, you get a long-term view of your data. And when you bring it up, you'll get the entire period of record. Mind you, you can tailor it, but you get the entire period of record, and it will show you all the water levels we've had since we started recording them. In some cases, goes back into the 40s and 50s. A lot of them, though, start back in the 80s and 90s. This is kind of what it looked like. Okay, so our water quality program. We do discrete water quality sampling with a constituent list we have for the types of stuff we're kind of looking for. The discrete sampling is, you pull up to the site, you get water, you run it through, various filters and other stuff we do. I don't do the sampling myself, sorry. But I've worked with them. In the 2025 agreement, there are 22 sampling sites. We also keep a couple alternates in case we can't get to them. A particular one, the water quality sites are split into 3 groups. I'm not sure why this was done originally, but we do rotationary groups. And those in the groups that we don't sample that year, we will go to those sites and do a kind of a mini sampling where we get specific conductivity and temperatures and perhaps anything else you might be looking for if you ask for. We do all the sampling basically the second half of August. Again, better for our office timing wise. Let's see. Okay, so the samples, when we get the samples and we box them up, put them on ice, we send them out to a private lab. Basically, because we have so many samples, our labs just really can't handle that kind of workload. So we use a private lab for that. And all of that sample data usually returns to us within 2 months, generally earlier, but it's returned to us, and then we put it on the web, and then you can go find the data you're looking for those particular wells. With the water levels, we collect those, and those are online within 2 weeks. So if you have any sites you're looking for, just let me know, and I'll try to get you the data. Okay, here is a list of our chemical constituents. I won't get into all of them, but this is currently what we standard do. Now, we have done other constituents before for Avek. The folks arranging the agreement just have to ask for it, and we can add it on. But the standard stuff, this is the standard stuff we're generally doing. Okay, cool. Here's one slide Tom got for me. It's a lot of wells with the groundwater water levels plotted on them, but he's picked them all over the region to kind of give you, and this is really good. It gives you a good layout of what the water's doing in the area. And I was really happy with this one. I imagine, is that the entire period of record of this system?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, it looks like kind of calmed down, like it's dropping as hard. But yeah, no, this is really good. This is what you can get out of your data, and you can compile it and do things like that.
What does this represent, this map? What topography?
Right, so this map is, okay, so it's got the region, we do the sampling and the water levels. And this particular one, all these points are wells that we are running our tapes down to get the water level soundings. And then Tom's picked a select group of them to kind of represent what you can do and what you can see in the data.
I know, are we looking at, how many miles are we looking here, the length of it?
Oh, miles, geez. I'm not familiar with how wide the Antelope Valley is.
Okay, that's what we'd like to know.
Right.
Yeah, maybe I can jump in here, John. So with the area outlined in black there is the Antelope Valley Adjudicated Groundwater Basin.
Okay.
And that's roughly 1,500 square miles
Okay.
in round numbers. So does that help, President Lane?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so the cost. All right. This is the cost for the 2025 water year. This is our kind of header breakdown for it. You have the program itself, the total. There's USGS cooperative matching funds, which we provide every year. And then the cooperator total, which would be for the water masters. And then we further break it down into a groundwater component and a water quality component. And what I've learned today is that various groups pay various percentages of those. So 50% water contractors, 25% for the regional management groups, and 25% for the water master. Right. Okay, so USGS matching funds that we provide annually currently are flat and frozen. There are changes based on the new administration and the DOGE stuff happening. I don't know what will happen next year. I can say, though, that the worst case scenario is what you see before you, what will be next year, where everything's flat. You will continue to get 29,880 in the funding, and we don't have any new funding available for new sites. But again, I don't know, but there's been talk that things may change. I promise I will let everybody know the minute I find out. But yeah, this here would be the worst case scenario for next year. So I think it looks pretty good.
All right.
You know, I would hope in this presentation, like we've had in previous, years, many years ago, we had a little bit more about, what's happening to the groundwater table. Is it rising or what's happening? And
Right.
maybe you're going to get into that, but you've got in a lot of the technical information, and it's so much different than presentations that we've had years and years ago.
Right. Megan, are you with us?
Yeah,
Is it stable? What's happening? We haven't really talked about it much.
I mean, I haven't really examined all of them. I think it's gonna vary basin to basin, where your recharging operations are happening. Obviously, you're probably gonna have more water in there. I think the general trend has always kind of been downward, but maybe not as downward as it has been, when there were no regulations on water withdrawals.
Right, just as an observation, because I'm not really qualified to speak to your question, but just as an observation, a lot of stuff has been relatively flat lately. Haven't seen a lot of coming up, haven't seen a lot going down. But mind you, that is only active observation me and my technician would make. But as far as a full scope, I can't.
George, if I could, and
Director Parrish.
Matt or Peter can jump in, but the water master engineer is keeping track of that on a basin-wide basis. And the model that we've been working on for the water master is very close to being completed. And a lot of those answer, and we're using USGS, all their data for the model. So a lot of those type of questions could be answered by our water master engineer. And maybe once we have the model completely done, we should do a presentation, have Arden, our water master engineer, do a presentation to the board to answer every one of those questions.
Definitely. I mean, we've had that in the past. And this presentation is just inadequate as far as I'm concerned.
So actually, this information we're getting is really helpful for me, but a lot of what you actually want out of this can be refined greatly by what our water master
That's
engineer
what we'd like to know, different parts of the valley.
Right.
Is the water table rising or lowering?
Yeah,
Or
they're
stable, and
they're-
that's, as you know, I've been on this board a lot of times, and we've always had that information, good presentations in the past, but we're not receiving it.
Yeah, the Arden is keeping track of that and reports to us at the water master meeting on a monthly basis.
We'll look forward to that,
And-
Rob.
So we can help, but it's the USGS data that is so important, and we thank you for that. That's helping us with our model for the basin. So-
Right, my present role is the collecting of the data.
Right.
And to publish the data.
And that's exactly what we're using on a monthly basis for all the work we're doing with the water master board. Do you have anything to add to that, Peter? Or?
No, I just would add that at one time they were looking at possibly rolling back the USGS program, but we sat down with Water Master Administrator, and the USGS wells that we're collecting the data on right now are critical for being able to monitor the health of the basin in all of the sub areas. So it's been a very valuable program, and having all that historical data to trend along to where we are currently has been really valuable in painting the picture and also informing our model. So it's been an important program.
It might be, but that's not what this board's receiving. Matt, have you heard any of this previous presentation years ago?
I do remember years ago. I mean, we're going back 10 years or so.
I'm going back way beyond that.
Yeah. When folks from USGS were tasked to monitor what was going on with the level of groundwater.
No matter how valuable the information may be, that's not what we're receiving with this presentation.
And I think, as Director Parrish pointed out, that it's kind of shifted from USGS is just collecting the data, and then that's being analyzed by the Antelope Valley Water Master Engineer.
Makes no sense. Okay, thank you.
All right. Do you have a few more slides?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay, so we have a basic history of it, kind of two parts here, a little bit of history of the program, kind of benefits you can use the program with. Let's see, we got a nice slide in there for the water level change. Is that from 83 to 96? Okay, that's pretty neat. Okay, Antelope Valley Water Agencies and USGS have been performing these levels for roughly 62 years. different sites, different lengths of time, but overall 62 years. Due to environmental conditions, aging of homeowners and private residents moving out, a lot of stuff, we have seen a 25% reduction in viable wells we can collect data from since 2015. I've got the program fairly trimmed now that all the water levels we're getting are giving you good data from them. And if you need to add more, feel free to discuss with me. We can put more wells on the list. Long-term benefits gives you a general overview of the health of the groundwater basins, allows for increased reliability of your models, can provide early warning signs of localized groundwater overdraft that can cause subsidence. And of course, all the data are available to everybody free online. All right.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Newby?
Yeah, John, are you receiving any staff cuts as a result of what's going on with?
I had some staff take the fork in the road departure, retirement. So I am down a little staff. And of course, I will not be able to hire in the meantime. I'm sure, who knows what the future brings, but at the moment, I'm holding water.
Great. So that won't interfere with our ability to
But
continue.
in 2025, it has not yet. They just finished completing about a week and a half ago. They just finished completing the annual water levels, and those have all been completed.
Okay, great.
Right, and those data should now be available on.
Excellent. And like I said earlier, the data you've been collecting and over the many years has helped our Water Master Board immensely with all the work they're doing on the new model. So
Sure, absolutely.
we appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I had a question. Maybe next time you do a presentation, you can give us the water level amounts where the standing water tables actually at.
We could probably arrange something for various basins. You know, that we show
Yeah.
you.
Can I chime in? That's slightly beyond the scope of what we're allowed to do. We can put up a bunch of graphs on a slide and you can interpret that yourselves, but our mission here is to only provide the data and without another agreement for analyzing that data, we're not really supposed to do that type of work. But that's what your water master's been doing. So that one slide earlier with the map and the hydrographs would be, if that's what you're looking for, that's about all we can do is put some graphs on a map and say it's going up here and going down there. And we can't really give you any information beyond that in the scope of this type of presentation and work that we've been contracted to do.
Okay, well, we appreciate all your guys' hard work. We'd just like to, maybe next time we get both you guys here, get the water master also at the same time so we could.
Yeah.
We kind of where we're at when we leave
Yeah.
the meeting. Just seems like we're kind of, like George said, a little bit empty on,
Yeah, I think Gary, again, that's something that's discussed routinely at the Water Master. Arden's doing a great job using the USGS data to interpret it, and she will be able to provide water levels in each one of our basins. We're working on a problem right now, what I perceive as a problem around Plant 42 area where the water table, and you might have been on the meeting, the water table has dropped what seems considerably, and we are studying why that is. We know it's in the central subbasin, and we know that's where we have our biggest problems, but this is to the point where they're having to drill new wells. Do you have anything to add, Peter?
No, look, that data has helped us uncover that issue, and there's many others like that we'll be looking into.
Okay, let's move on right there.
John,
Right.
thank you very much.
Thank you,
Yes,
John.
thank you. Matt, we used to have reports and maps in those historical, and, you know, Keith and Frank would remember those, and hopefully we still have them. We can see what information we used to get.
Yeah.
But this is far insufficient.
So a lot of those maps transition to digital, and that I can provide each of the directors a link to the website where all of the data that USGS collects is you can click on any of the wells and it'll give you all that historical level data
If you have-
that you're
If
looking
you have
for.
any of those old reports, it'd be nice for the board to look at it
Okay,
and see the information we used to get.
yeah,
Okay, thank
I'll
you,
dig that up.
thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and you can, with the next item, you can go ahead and turn
Okay,
that over to who you want.
item 8A2, actually Peter Thompson, our assistant GM, is going to cover this item.
Okay,
All right, good evening, President Lane, board members. So tonight we have a resolution, gives disposition of our banked and stored water and the collection of the replacement water fees. So as you're aware, we've gone through a process where the water master staff analyzed over pumping in the basin in 2023 and collected replacement water assessments for that. A replacement water plan was put together by the 3 GMs of each agency, and which really makes it so that each agency where there's over pumping occurring, they're providing the water for it, and they're receiving the replacement water assessments back. So specifically in Avek's case, we will be providing 281.63 acre feet of water back to the basin. And those will be coming out of Upper Amargosa Creek and the Little Rock Creek recharge site. And we'll be receiving replacement water assessments in the amount of $182,423.92. This resolution basically just acknowledges those amounts and where they're dispersed. And the next step will be the association, the Antelope Valley State Water Contractor Association, dispersing those funds to Avek and also making the changes in the accounting for the different banks located there. I just would like to make one thing that's a little different this time. Water Master staff did find some issues with accounting in the last go round of replacement water assessments. And that's why you see a credit of 58.01 acre feet to West Side Water Bank. That shouldn't be any more adjustments going forward.
okay, thank you. Is there any questions from the board, staff? And we do have a board order on page 9, or 25-14. And if there's no further questions, the motion would be in order.
Mr. President, I'll move on 8.
We have a motion by Director Miller,
I'll second.
second by Director Mercy. There's no further questions or comments, Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Ray Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, motion carried, so ordered, yes. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, in Finance Committee. And, Director Dias is chairman of that committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met last Thursday, April 3rd, and among several things we discussed was the check register list for the period of March 13th through March 26th, 2025. And I believe our general manager Knudsen would like to review some certain items on this list.
All right, thank you, Director Dias. So on page 13 of your agenda packet is the first page of their checklist. Item number 1 is our monthly payment to Department of Water Resources. This is for moving water through the State Water Project. It's $160,768. It's a little less than what we've seen in the past because this does reflect a credit that we received for some prior months. And that credit is due to truing up the variable costs associated with some hydro generation within the State Water Project. On the next page, item 28 is a progress payment for our SCADA system update. It's $42,500. We have a contract, board approved contract with APCO for roughly $450,000. So this is a progress payment for that work. Item 30 is a progress payment for CSI services associated with the Leona Valley Tank Rehab Project. $13,450. well below what we anticipated that costing. We budgeted a little over $80,000 to do this work, and we're coming in well under budget for that. And the good news is we hope to start filling the Leona Valley tank back up this week and get that tank back online here within the next week or so. We have to do some water quality testing that takes 5 to 7 days, but once we get through that, we'll turn it back on and be flowing into the system. And then a few pages back, on page 18, we have a few checks that are associated with the High Desert Water Bank operation and maintenance cost. And all of those payments are reimbursed by Metropolitan Water District based on our approved budget. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do you know how many acre feet of water we paid for, on the bill?
The current rate is about $250 per acre foot.
Yeah,
So-
well, the bill doesn't show us how much we paid the water.
Yeah, we pay, like I said, we currently pay about $250 per acre foot for delivery.
Okay, so you can't break down.
I don't know. I
2
think
million
the
less.
credit that we received for prior months was in the $450,000 range. Does that sound right, Pete?
Wow.
Yep.
Matt, on number equipment maintenance and legacy vehicle, what is the meaning of legacy vehicle?
Let me see.
It's
Item, do you have an item?
59.
59. Grease Monkey for legacy vehicles. So legacy vehicles are vehicles that we own that are not part of the lease program. So it's
Okay.
typically the larger vehicles, the big maintenance
Okay.
trucks. Yeah.
Okay.
Heavy
That's fine.
equipment
Thank
stuff.
you.
We own that outright. We don't lease those.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is there any further, Matt, do you have anything further on that?
I don't.
Okay, does the board have any questions or comments? Okay, motion would be in order for 8B1, to approve the check register.
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move approval of board order 8B1.
I'll second. This is Keith.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, if we could have a roll call.
Was that second Gary or was that Keith?
It was Keith.
Division 6, Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Yep, motion carried, so ordered. Yeah, thank you.
That will bring us to item 8B2, consideration and possible action to approve a purchase order with Consolidated Electrical Distributors for a 257 kW load bank for portable generator maintenance. And I believe our operations manager, Bozigian, will make a presentation to the board.
Thank you, Keith. Good evening, everybody. So as the board knows, we have 6 500 kW portable emergency generators. We've had a lot of repairs in the last few years, and it points to these new Tier 4 compliant generators have diesel exhaust fluid DEF systems. And if you don't run these generators under load, they don't regenerate and they cause some repair problems. So we talked to the technician and they recommended purchasing what's called a load bank. And what this does is it simulates a load on these generators. Instead of running them every month, which we do, we're gonna actually run them under load. Buying this load bank is gonna be much quicker. So we're not gonna haul these generators all over the valley to hook them up to a load. We're gonna just do it here. So the total cost of this load bank, we did find one, and we can get it through a local distributor, CED in Lancaster, $30,312.13. And we'll put that towards the equipment maintenance budget. And we discussed in a pretty much detail with the finance committee.
Okay, it's something we need. So, if there's any further questions or comments? And
Yeah, I got one comment, what do they call that, modern technology at best? We run into the same thing if then things idle.
Right,
Big tractors idle, they load up.
right.
Then it doesn't burn off. And you gotta go and regen basically your filter.
Right,
Is that what you're talking about?
that's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
okay, if there's no further questions or comments, I would need a motion for 8B1, 8B2.
I moved
Also
to,
move.
oh, go ahead, Keith.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Dias,
Second.
and a second by Director Van Dam. Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yep, motion carried, so ordered. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, the next item is 8B3, purchase order for Aqua Aerobic Systems Incorporated to rebuild 2 ozone generators at the Eastside Water Treatment Plant. And again, I believe Operations Manager Bozigian will report on this item.
Okay, so you've all toured the Port Sill plant. You've seen our huge ozone generators, which we use in the treatment process. Those were installed in 2008, 2009. We just finished contracting with Aqua Aerobics to rebuild the Port Sill generators. Now we're going to move to the east side ozone generators. For those of you that were on the board back then, you remember we purchased these from Fuji Electric. They have since sold to Meta Water, who has since sold to Aqua Aerobics. And so Aqua Aerobics is the only company, they're proprietary, that can work on these things. So we can't get bids. We can't put it out to, Trudeau Electric or somebody local to work on these. So anyway, we got a price from Aqua Aerobics, well under budget. We purchased a lot of spare parts about 10 years ago for the Port Sill generators. And when we budgeted this, we didn't know we could interchange these parts. So we budgeted $400,000, but we found now we can use a lot of the circuit boards that we have in stock on the east side generators. So that brought the price down significantly to $207,000 to rebuild these east side generators. So Aqua Aerobics is it's pretty tough to get on their schedule. So we would ask that the board consider approving this so we can get on the schedule and hopefully get them out here by end of summer.
I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
What's the price difference between rebuilding them and buying new?
Well, in 2008, Avek purchased these generators for all the plants for $5.5 million. And I would say now you're probably looking at three times that. And with the tariffs, probably even more. So to replace them, I think it would be significantly more. We got 15, 16 years out of them before we had to rebuild them. I think it's prudent to just rebuild them.
So on a rebuild, will we get that another 15 or 16?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should get the same amount of time. They completely take them apart, replace all the parts, the dielectrics, everything. So yeah, I'll be gone by then, Gary. So you'll have to email me and let me know how that works out.
Right. Thank you, John.
Okay.
Well, it's a very detailed proposal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Question for it.
There's
Is
no
there a
further
limit to how many times?
questions or comments?
Oh.
Director Mercy?
Is there a limit to how many times they can be rebuilt?
I don't think so. They're huge stainless steel vessels. They replace O-rings, fuses, dielectrics. Those are all replaceable parts. No, I don't think so. I think you could probably keep going. Yeah.
Okay, we have order 8B-3. If there's no further questions or comments, motion would be in order.
Mr. President, I'll move on AB3.
Director Miller, we have a motion.
Mr. President, I second that motion.
Director Parrish, we have a second. Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yeah, motion carried, so ordered. Yeah, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
And that will conclude the Finance Committee report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Keith. We'll move on to water projects. And Director Miller is chairman of that committee.
Okay, we have 8C1. So we have, I'll actually turn this over to maybe to Justin. You want me to send it directly to
That'd be
Justin?
perfect. Thank you.
Since he's a very capable person to take care of this for us, we have a couple items.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Director Miller. Good evening, President Lane, members of the board. Got a brief presentation for you. As you can see, the item is consideration of possible action on granting 4 easements. The various little companies are there. They're under the umbrella of TerraGen. So we wanted to be complete and accurate on the agenda, but I'm going to mostly just say TerraGen. So TerraGen came to us and requested a power line easement for underground medium voltage electrical crossings along our north feeder and Mojave feeder pipelines. I have a map in another slide. This is similar to the easement that Avek granted to TerraGen in 2021. If we approve these 4 easements to TerraGen, which total about a half of an acre in total, if you sum them all up, TerraGen would compensate the agency $22,000 as a one-time payment. That number was taken from their 2021 agreement and then adjusted for inflation to catch us up to 2025 and then rounded up to the next even dollar amount to make it easy. The easement agreements, purchase and sale agreements have both been reviewed by AVEC's legal counsel. The easement agreement has a 65-year term, which closely coincides with the 70-year agreement term that we've previously entered into with TerraGen. In addition, the agreement includes indemnification and insurance provisions that TerraGen will provide to AVEC. As far as the actual crossings, they're going to be required to be 10 feet below our existing pipelines, and previous suggestions from the committee looking at prior easements have been incorporated into this, which is that they enclose those electrical lines within a carrier conduit to make future maintenance easy and not even require them really to access our pipeline in any way, to dig underneath or anything like that. Just to give you an idea, I think some of you may have toured the Sanborn facility or talked to them before, but the map here kind of just shows the vastness of the facility. Some of the crossings are shown on here, but I've got a better map here, which shows where those crossings are. So just for reference, the Mojave Tank Farm is located here on the map. This as it goes north into Mojave and then out, mouse isn't keeping up, out east towards Boron on our north feeder. So there's 4 crossings in total. You can see them labeled on the map there, and their various dimensions. The dimensions just have to do with how many underground crossings there are and if there's an overground roadway or not. So we've discussed this with the Water Projects Committee in detail, and they support a recommendation to the full board to authorize the execution of these easement agreements and the related purchase and sell agreements with these various companies under TerraGen. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, these are temporary easements, correct?
For a 65-year term, yes.
Okay. Where'd that 6 month, didn't we talk about 6 month intervals or?
So I think what you're referring to, Director Van Dam, is when we first started talking about these easements, President Lane had a comment about what happens if this becomes inactive or they aren't using the easements, can they go away? Because it's such a long-term 65 years. So on page 54 of your packet, under the term section for these easements, there is a provision that if the power line facilities stop being used for up to 180 days, that we have the option to notify them and cancel the easement. Yeah. Did I get that right, Justin?
Yeah, that's correct.
So I think that's what you're referring to, right?
And again, how do we know, do we know that it's not been used for?
Yeah, I think it'd be tied to the Kern County permit that's issued. So we could check with the Kern County planning on the status of their permit. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so looks like a good agreement. Do we have any further questions or comments? Again, motion would be in order in a second.
Mr. President, I'll move approval.
Director Mercy, the motion. Second,
I'll second.
Director Miller. Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, yeah. Motion carried, it's ordered.
Thank you.
Good job, Justin. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Good job.
Okay, that brings us to, consideration in, possible action to award a contract, Graham, Prefer, you're gonna talk, that's our roof.
Yeah, so, and there's Joe Roberts, our senior engineer.
Hey, Joe, thank you. Welcome.
No problem. Good evening, directors. Like Director Lane mentioned, we're talking about the roof again. Little reference, we're in the nice blue shiny building. We're talking about the building to the left. Previously, what we've done so far, we put the project out to bid in April of 2024. We got one bid that was $2 million, which we rejected at that time and plan to rebid again this year. We spoke with the Water Projects Committee in March and then placed the project back out to bid. The project will include removing the old roof, looking for any water damage, and replacing some windows and installing a new roof that'll be similar to this building. Schedule-wise, it'll be about 90 days from the notice to proceed. We held a pre-bid meeting that 9 contractors attended, but we only ended up getting 3 bids. Lowest being from Graham Pruitt for $698,000. We looked at their bid. They have a current roofing license. They submitted a good bid, and then we contacted some project references who all had very good comments about them. So moving to a recommendation, Water Projects Committee and staff recommend that we authorize a contract with Graham Pruitt for $698,000, and also to authorize the general manager an additional 10% or $69,800 to negotiate change orders in case of water damage or things like that. Be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, so I had a question.
Mhm.
That, first bid for back in 24 for 2 million,
Yeah,
was that a bid or an insult?
a little both. I think they knew they were the only ones here. So
I agree.
they wanted a big check.
Second question is, now there, you said there'll be a completion date at 90 days?
90 days
Yeah,
from the notice to proceed.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have that in writing?
It's part of the contract.
Yes.
Okay.
We have
Or
to get
will
some
be.
paperwork from them, and then we'll issue the notice to proceed, which will start that 90 days.
Okay, good job. There no further questions or comments? Director Mercy?
Quick question. Have we checked at all for mold detection? Just because I remember seeing the videos and pictures of how bad it leaked, just to check in advance of doing the roof job if we need to bring in a remediation specialist.
We've looked in a couple areas for just any sites but there hasn't really been too much, so we're hoping for the best. We did include some replacement in the bid, but anything additional we'll need to look at as it comes up.
Would that be part of the change order?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if that comes up. Fingers crossed, it looks good though.
Okay, a motion would be in order, and 8C-2, clear at the end of our agenda. We have a motion, 698,000.
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move approval of Board Order 8C2.
We have a motion by Director Paris,
Second?
and second by Director Van Dam. Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried, so ordered. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Good job.
Okay, we'll move to item number 9, General Manager's Report.
All right, good evening.
Matt?
Yeah, so you can see on the agenda, we have item 9A, which is an update on Division 3 vacancy. So I thought it'd be appropriate to have a slide just kind of remind the board or inform the board where we're at with the vacancy. So if you remember, the board approved the resolution to fill the vacancy by appointment. And so the following day on March 26th, Holly did a great job in getting the notice posted at 6 various locations throughout Division number 3 boundary. To date, we've received 2 applications. The deadline for receiving the applications is April 10th. So it's this Thursday at 5 p.m. Then we would talk about having a special meeting to interview and or appoint a Division 3 director. And that date has not been set yet. Holly will work with board president and members of the board to see what date works for everybody, but probably be late April, early May for that special meeting. We do have a deadline. The timeline's tied to when former Director Donato put in his resignation. So that kind of officially started the clock. And so there is a deadline of May 24th. We have to make an appointment by that date. And then also within 15 days of the appointment, we have to notify the county elections office official of who that appointment is. And that's within 15 days of the actual appointment. I think you've all seen the notice. That's a copy on the right on the screen. But that's the notice that was posted at various locations and on our website. So any questions as to where we're at in that process? Hearing none. So here's a snapshot of our current flows at the various AVAC facilities. Starting at the top left, we have our 4 water treatment plants. Court Hill Water Treatment Plant being our largest, we're currently flowing about 20 million gallons per day. So the flow is creeping up as the weather warms up, days are longer. We see an increase in water demand from our customers. So currently at 20, this summer we'll probably get up to 50, 55, maybe 60 million gallons per day as the peak. So we'll see how that goes. Roseman Water Treatment Plant is currently off. Eastside Water Treatment Plant is currently flowing about 2.5 million gallons per day. And then Acton is being served via water treated by Palmdale Water District. So that's currently flowing at about 1.2 million gallons per day. The bottom left chart shows what we're pumping from our water bank facilities or recovering through recovery wells. And this is recovery of stored imported water. So we're sending about 2.5 million gallons per day to the north, and that meets the demand of our north system out towards Edwards Air Force Base, Boron, Mojave Public Utilities District, etc. And then we have some of that flow going south that goes to LA County Waterworks near 80th Street West and Avenue H. That's about 2.8 million gallons per day. Eastside Water Bank, we're just banking. We're running the plant, so the recovery is off at that facility. And then we're cycling the bench ranch wells to keep those wells running well and flowing water into the county. At the top right, we did begin. Oh, I'm sorry.
The ag wells, what are those, and do we ever run them anymore?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the ag wells are located in Kern County, and they were associated with the old Calandry property that we purchased years ago. We have run those during periods of drought where we need to flow water from those wells into the west feeder, and then that water is treated at the Roseman Water Treatment Plant and then delivered to the north system.
Thank you.
Yep.
And how many are there?
Oh, half dozen or so. 10. But we only use a handful of them at any time.
Thank you.
Yep. The chart on the top right shows what we're currently recharging. If you remember at the last board meeting, we mentioned that because we have some surplus table A water this year, we're going to be able to meet all demands and still have a surplus. we started the banking operation at our West Side Water Bank. So we're currently banking right at 100 acre feet per day. East Side Water Bank, we're banking about 3 acre feet per day. Upper Amagosa is flowing about 3.2 acre feet per day. And Little Rock and High Desert are currently offline.
Matt, another question on Upper Amagosa. Palmdale, that amount of water they're getting, are they putting that into that water banking?
Yeah, so we're currently banking the 3.2 acre feet per day, which will be, a little over 1,000 acre feet for the year. So a portion of that is the city's water allocation per our agreement. And they're paying the delivery cost for moving that water to that bank.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Yep. And next slide, we went over this with the finance committee last Thursday, but thought I'd go over it with the board as well. Because we're getting into our budget cycle, we're gonna hopefully approve the budget here first part of July. We're starting to prepare the different components that make up the overall budget. So on the left, you can see the various components of the budget. Kind of the middle column is what's included in that. And then we have a committee assignment. We try to spread this out amongst various committees to review those specific items. And then when you can see, we have a target month of when we'd like to present those to the committees. And then that all wraps up into the final budget that we will present in early July. The last piece, and it's a big piece of the budget, is the state water project costs. So unfortunately, we don't get all the numbers from DWR until the 1st of July. So that's the last piece that we need to finalize the budget.
That's the first I've seen something like that. That's a very good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'll be a big help.
Yeah. And kudos to Teresa. She's the one tasked to put all this stuff together. So I just present this chart. She does everything else. And then the last slide is we have upcoming schedule. We have the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors meeting this Thursday here at Avek at 10 p.m. or I'm sorry, 6 p.m. We have the Antelope Valley Advisory Committee, Groundwater Advisory Committee. That's next Wednesday, the 16th at 10 a.m. That's on Zoom or in person at the Quartz Hill Water District. We have our monthly Water Master meeting on the 23rd at 10 a.m. here at Avek and also on Zoom. I think you've all been notified by Holly. We're going to have an Avek special board meeting on May 6th at 5:30, and that is going to replace the regular meeting that we had scheduled for May 13th. And we're going to cancel the 13th because of the Aqua conference. A number of us will be at that conference. And that is all I have, unless you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Is there any comments?
Yeah, I had a question on Lake Orville. Where are we at? Have we had to drain any water off of Orville, or are we looking good there?
So Orville, go ahead, Pete. You look like you're itching to.
No, it's very full. They have been doing some releases for flood flow management and then some small releases for fish, but it still remains very full.
And still more water coming?
Still more water coming from runoff from snow melt.
Good. We're at 40% now on our.
We're at 40%. Pete is telling me that we should see 50% end of April, early May.
Good.
That's fun. Thank you.
So we anticipate one more increase from DWR.
Great.
You just want me to lose.
Good job. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
If there's nothing further on that, we're going to move to director's reports.
Poppy Festival is coming up on the 25th, 27th, Drew?
Yep.
And then the livestock auction will be, I believe, on the 30th. 30th of April. Check that
April
one on
30th at
calendar, Rob. Got it? Okay.
Maybe earlier. Good job.
Anything further? One item, I've appointed an ad hoc committee regarding director replacement. Director Miller, chairman of that committee, and Gary Van Dam and myself. And there'll be we'll only meet informational only. There'll be no recommendation or no interview, and probably be one meeting with the candidates to make sure we have all the information. If there's any questions, but like I say, there'll be no recommendation. They'll come to the board for the interviews and make the final decision. Okay, we'll move on to attorney's report.
Mr. Markman?
Hearing none at this time.
I do have something to say, George. I'm sorry. I was muted. A very significant case was decided by the Court of Appeals on the Kern River. And some of you may have heard about it or read something in the newspapers about it. I've sent it to Matt. Matt should be reading it. It really sends topsy-turvy the whole idea of how groundwater rights and even stream rights are going to be allocated. The court there, that's the case that was trying to leave water running in the Kern River, and doesn't matter what the various uses are for municipal and industrial use or other uses. And there's a lot of pressure coming from the environmentalists also. And a surprising decision came down, a very powerful decision from the Court of Appeals that essentially said the guiding principle now is reasonable and beneficial use, which means everybody's position, regardless of what water right priority you may have, is going to be weighed against the other on the basis of equity. And so the case, essentially, the outcome with the injunction was dissolved, and the case was essentially sent back to the trial court. But there's a very high chance, we think, that we're going to see that case petitioned to the California Supreme Court, and that they'll take it, because this has been coming ever since we did our case that had a lot to do with equities and people who had overlying rights that were never exercised having to get back in line and pay for the water they use. Has all been leading up to this transition of the emphasis on water rights priorities. And interestingly enough, the key case cited by the Court of Appeals was the old Jin Chow case, which was the first case to talk about equity back in the 1930s. So this is kind of an earth-shaking case. We'll see what happens, but I thought the board, you should be looking for reactions, particularly since it's all about the Kern River and Bakersfield. So that will be my report. We'll keep you in touch with how that goes.
Very, very interesting. Is there questions?
Jim, will that have any impact on the nickel water?
It could, because, the court's not in love with old water rights that have been unexercised if it comes to a decision on how they're used. And they cited some wonderful old cases. The one I like the best, which was the case that said you can't use your water right even if you have priority to go hunting gophers, killing gophers that are eating your crops, and they're not denying people who live in the city next door their share of the water. So it went all the way back to those old cases that were cited all those years ago. So it's about, I was in the Supreme Court arguing for the same position in 1999, but didn't get all the way there. So now here it is 26 years later, and it's come back. So it's fascinating. It is a really important case.
Did that affect Avek with our nickel water?
It could make nickel water less precious, if anything, yes.
Interesting. But a lot of those water rights were established, maybe the turn of the century, or?
That's right. Be prior to 1914, like the Nichols waters, prior to the state having an administrative system. And with groundwater, we didn't have an administrative system until 2016. So it's all going to be a question of promote the most beneficial uses that make sense, And the court was very strongly applying the water for people is what's going to come first. And some of the stuff that's looked the other way with respect to recreational water or water for environmental, for salmon, put it where it is. The fish are not king. The fish were the king of the decision on the to let the water flow in the river through Bakersfield, and this court didn't buy that. Put it that way.
The nickel water, that went back to one of the largest ranches in California, Miller and Lux.
Right.
Or the descendants.
Right.
In like San Joaquin Valley, a lot of it was just halfway a swamp area, a lot of water.
Well, there's a lot of tension between these powerful old water rights and water shortages. You've seen that happen up in Kings County and some of those counties up north where the state board literally was trying to stop these people from using those powerful priority rights, which was going contrary to the basin being depleted essentially. And actually, they had to back off of the people who had those water rights. So it was people up there like Boswell, I mean, gigantic, powerful farming interests with those old rights. So
just something it'll probably go on for years in appeals, or
I think so. I think we're going to see.
Multiple years or shorter term.
This case should take maybe about 18 months more, maybe a couple of years. But George, you're going to see some follow-up litigation also, because people don't back off and say, "Oh, it's a new day for water rights." They fight, whatever their position is. They fight harder than most.
Jim, this is Rob. 2 questions. What appellate district was it decided in?
It's right in Kern County.
Kern County, so the Fresno?
Yeah.
Court in Fresno? Okay. Which is a friendly, well, maybe not. Then the other question.
I don't think they moved that out of county, but I could be wrong about that. Be careful, but I don't want to lead you astray on that. Usually when you get these cases and you have public entities within the county fighting for water rights, they get sent to another county. I'm trying to think maybe that was somebody from LA County that got a hold of that. So I'm not quite sure about that, but you for sure, Rob, you should for sure read that case.
Matt, well, you probably should send it to all of us, and then that would not be a citable decision until it goes back down to the trial court and a decision's made, or is it citable now, or do you know?
Well, now it's citable, but it's now about 45 days left. If there's a petition filed in the Supreme Court, a petition for review, then it's not citable. So that's what to look for next.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Is there any further questions? Anything further?
No, that's it, George.
Yeah. Thank you for the report. Very good. Next item, request for future agenda items. Okay. We have need for going to closed session regarding CB communities and the evaluation of our general manager and our board secretary treasurer. So motion would be in order to go into closed session.
Mr. President, I'll move to go into closed session.
Director Miller?
Mr. President, I'll second that motion.
Director Parrish.
And George, you need me in the evaluation one because I cannot attend the other one. It will be up to the board.
It's up to the board. Anybody have any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think we need to have you in there, Mr. Markman.
Okay.
That's
fine. At this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. It's ordered. Thank you. Take a 5-minute break and we'll. Period open to the public. If anyone's listening in, wish to address the board, now's the time to do so, but it's not further on the agenda.
We're going to do this again. Jack Cephas, White Fence 3.
You're unmuted now. You're unmuted. Stop pushing anything. You don't.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, adoption of agenda. And that's meetings of board meeting of April 8th. We've all had a chance to look at that. A motion would be in order.
Mr. President, I'll move adoption of the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Mr. President, this is Rob. I'll second that motion.
A second, but, okay, Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Yeah, motion carried. Thank you. We'll move to item number 7, the consent calendar.
Mr. President, I'll move on 7A1 to approve the minutes on the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Miller,
Second.
second by Director Van Dam. If there's no further, questions or comments, Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. We're moving right along. We'll go down to the Finance Committee. And we have 3 items. Oh, excuse me. I'm skipped new business. And we have a presentation by the USGS regarding our groundwater monitoring program. And Matt, will turn that over to you.
All right, thank you. Good evening.